Whether you can't get out of bed in the morning, your energy crashes throughout the day, or you're a biohacker looking to optimize your energy, productivity, and focus, this podcast is for you. I am Dr. Evan Hirsch, and I will be your host on your journey to resolving fatigue and optimizing your energy. And we'll be interviewing some of the top leaders in the world on fatigue resolution. Welcome. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Fix Your Fatigue podcast. I'm so glad that you're joining me here today because today we're going to be talking about skin and the skin clues that are indicating whether or not you have fatigue or the skin clues of fatigue and inflammation. We're going to be doing that with my friend Rachel Varga. So let's learn a little bit about Rachel. So Rachel is a board certified aesthetic nurse specialist since 2011 with over 20,000 procedures performed, an international clinical trainer for other physicians and nurses, celebrity skin expert featured on Bulletproof Radio, Ask the Health Experts podcast with JJ Virgin, live with Dr. Kellyanne Petrucci and Naveen Jain, and more. She is also a speaker and a four-time academically published award-winning author in the field of plastic and aesthetic nursing, as well as an executive board member and peer reviewer for the Plastic Surgical Nursing Journal. Through education on skincare, skin and laser rejuvenation, non-surgical solutions, healing lifestyle, and biohacking practices, Rachel helps inspire others with her unique toolkit to navigate and strategize aging impossibly well using the holistic science of beauty. Rachel, thank you so much for joining me here today.
It's great to be here with you, Evan. We had a really fun time. I loved having you on my show, the Rachel Varga podcast. And it's always fun when we connect and we talk about all this juicy stuff before we start recording. So maybe we'll end up sprinkling all of those little tidbits in this episode, which would be kind of fun.
Yeah, I love that. I love everything that you bring. You've got, such an interesting background, interesting perspective, and I really appreciate it. And today we're talking about skin, and I think we're going to be talking a little bit about toxicity, maybe a little bit about spirituality, but a whole bunch of good stuff. So let's start off with the relationship kind of between fatigue, inflammation, and skin, wherever you want to start.
Actually, if you want to age well, you have to make sure that your body, mind, spirit, and energy are all actually things that you're focusing on. You can't have great skin if you have a really bad lifestyle and you're not paying attention to your energy levels. And I know that you are the fatigue expert with your book, Fix Your Fatigue, and your programs and all of that. And I think that people don't really understand that there is an element of toxicity in your personal care products. This might be the first time you're hearing about this, but usually when we leave our bathrooms, we're already toxic. So if we're not careful and are very intentional with what we're putting in, on, and around our bodies, in our homes, every AM and PM, if we're not careful, we will become toxic. We're going to feel fatigued and we're not going to show up as our brightest, most vibrant, beautiful, and radiant versions. So that's kind of where someone like myself comes in, where I help you navigate and create a custom routine just for you based on your skin goals. I use over 13 medical grade, practitioner grade products, skincare, supplements, all that, beauty products, hair care, makeup that I've worked with for over 10 years. And I pre-vet everything. So if I don't like a product, if they've reformulated, they get the boot. And everything I work with is free of parabens, phthalates, sulfates, artificial dyes, fragrances, no even sprinkling of chemical sunscreen filters or anything like that. That's a really great place to start, is to make sure you don't have any of those ingredients in your skincare and personal care products.
I love that. And there was something that you said about essentially being a steward of all the things going into your body and your mind, right? So you've got to make sure that you're only putting good stuff in your mind, good stuff in your mouth, good stuff on your skin. Would you agree?
120 million %. Before we started recording, I was just very honest with you, Evan, about what I do to actually decompress. And when I am tired, you know what I do? I actually clear my schedule. I simply do that because I don't want to show up for appointments with one-on-ones or be in a podcast episode like with you here if I'm not feeling my best, because you know what? People are going to smell it. So what do I do instead? I actually clear the deck, hop in my 4x4. I get about 3 hours into the woods, cold therapy, have a fire outside, cook some yummy meat over some yummy hardwood. And I am in nature. And the funny thing is, when I take that time to respect my body, mind, spirit, and energy, I actually get all these little like hits and intuitive insights into how I can best show up for my clients and, you know, audiences that tune in when I do talks and stuff like that. So it really is kind of this circle of reciprocity that if you don't respect it, you aren't going to be really playing the game of being a human. Have you ever heard of that book, Ready Player One?
I saw the movie.
Yeah. So my hubby, we just had a couple of days in a cabin in the woods on the water, actually next to a beach where we got engaged. It was fabulous,
Nice.
Completely off grid for about 3 days. And he was reading the second book in that series, Ready Player Two, I think is the title. And he said something really interesting. In the first kind of opening segment of the book, the author is talking about how if you want to win at the game of being a human, you got to play the game. And the way to win is to ensure that you are navigating life with as much joy towards yourself and happiness and kindness to yourself, but also to others. That's really how we win at this. And a byproduct, when you are your most joyful, radiant version, you're going to have less of that cortisol dumping, less of that hormonal imbalance. Your detoxification pathways are going to be running just as they should. And your skin will be clearer and your aging process will be slower and your fatigue levels will be less. You're going to have more energy to show up and do the things that you enjoy or maybe that you came here to do.
I totally agree. So it sounds like you're talking about like a daily practice or something that you have to do every day, because it doesn't just happen, right? You're not just going to wake up and have the most amazing day, right? We have things that we need to do in order to perform at our best during the day. What are some of the things that you like to do?
I literally start every day and finish every day with an Epsom salt soak with some of my amazing locally made pineapple body oil, unscented Epsom salts for magnesium, right? Getting that magnesium, really good for stress and sleep. I love red light therapy, but I also have a lot of windows in my bathroom. So I make sure that in the morning when I'm doing my personal care, I always get sunlight in my eyes. And that's kind of a non-negotiable. Sometimes I'll slip up like this morning and I'll cruise on social media and all of that. And I was like, oh, darn it. I didn't meditate this morning. I was on social media instead. Don't worry about it. Give yourself a little bit of grace and then jump into your self-care routine. So I always take time to look after my body morning and evening with bathing, with using really great products and enjoying the process and really taking that time for myself, because we tend to wear this badge of busyness as a badge of honor. And I see a lot of humans just really floundering that are doing that. Those that meet with me and I ask them how they are through a session, they say things like, oh, I'm really busy. I just dropped the kids off this. I've done all these things today. And I can just tell they're kind of frazzled, and those are kind of the individuals out there that are really running on all 8 cylinders and are experiencing that adrenal fatigue. So catch yourself if you end up speaking to somebody and they're asking you how your day is, and you say, oh, I'm busy. You need to flip that. There is actually a mindset to beauty and radiance. And actually, we're talking about biohacking. I just got some test results back for a biohacking test that I did that looked at my biological versus chronological age. And I'm 35. And I always joke and say that, oh, I'm turning 25 again this year, each birthday. It's seriously just a joke, but hear me out here. I got my results back. I'm 9 years younger than my chronological age. So all this stuff works. Having the intention with your morning and PM routine, using clean products, doing all this biohacking stuff, tuning into conversations with Evan and I, they all really do pay off in the long term, because there's always skeptics like my hubby. He's pro athlete. He's like, oh, this biohack stuff, I don't need to do any of that stuff. But he's super tuned in with his body. But there's other people, regular people like you and I, that sometimes we need a little bit of extra help and testing and all of that, so that we're not guessing what we're doing. We're actually laser focused.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I actually had the last week has been a little bit challenging for me with a number of things going on in the world and whatnot. And I was coming back to, okay, well, what makes me happy? And what are the things that are actually going to get me into that soul-centered space? And so I was listening to Abraham Hicks, and I started singing every morning. I've got a singing competition coming up in January, and normally I sing at the end of my day. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to start my day off singing. So that's been really great for me. So what sort of, and then I was also working on my mindset, doing my gratitudes and my envisioning and stuff like that. What sort of mindset stuff? You talked a little bit about some of the fun that you do, but other things that you do that are fun that kind of get you in the moment, and other mindset things that you do, I'd love to hear.
We're talking about mindset. I did used to start my day with Abraham Hicks as well. I'd have my computer, my laptop with me, and I would just, have that 10-minute hit on YouTube while I'm doing my skincare and makeup and hair and all that stuff. And then I kind of actually tuned away from that and went more towards some of the information that people like Dr. Joe Dispenza is putting out there, Greg Braden. I'm also part of a really amazing community where once a month we get together for these live telecalls, and we're kind of getting these monthly updates, and we're sharing in and amongst the community. And I'll actually re-listen to those calls, and these are like 2-hour calls. I'll listen to them sometimes once or twice a week in the evening if I'm, say, feeling a little frazzled or a little stressed out. That's something that it just is kind of like a reboot for me, and it's going to be different for everybody. Not everybody can sit down for 2 hours meditating, but I got to tell you, it's something that I recommend that you learn to do, is to be still and control your thoughts and control your body, mind, spirit, and energy. Take that time to really just like sit the heck down and tune out everything, right? You're not needed 24 hours a day. You can give yourself 1 to 2 hours a couple of times a week and meditate. But the thing with mindset and meditation is that it's going to look different for absolutely everyone. And that's okay. I recommend that you just simply do meditations and groups and communities, get to know different groups of communities that you really resonate with and are very drawn to, because there's usually something there for you.
Brilliant. Great idea. So let's talk about skin. Let's talk about how can you tell if somebody has inflammation inside their body just by looking at their skin?
It's really easy to tell, actually. The first sign is diffuse redness. So, for example, redness to the cheeks, inflammation and redness to the eyelids. So puffy eyelids, even hyperpigmentation. So accelerated rates of like melanin deposit in the skin, which is going to be like sunspots or age spots. Sometimes we even see things like melasma, which is like a covering of pigmentation, forehead, cheeks, upper lip. Those can all really be signals of all sorts of things happening in the body on inflammatory and detoxification pathway blockage levels, as well as acne can be a sign of youth. Naveen Jain said that when I interviewed him. He's the author of Moon Thoughts, creator of Biome. And I would actually confirm that as well, that acne can be a sign of youth. But here's the kicker. What does your skin do after you get that breakout? Does that redness, post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation, go away within 1 to 3 days, or does it linger for a few weeks? So if you get a blemish and you're noticing that it doesn't go away very quickly, that really is a sign that your body has an inability to deal with inflammation, and there is going to be some inflammation on the inside. Other signs of inflammation you're going to notice are going to be like just the quality of your hair, skin, and nails in general. If you're sensitive, if you're dry, if your skin's rough, again, that eyelid irritation. I have about 10 and a half years of experience in ophthalmology and oculoplastics. And a lot of times there's some gut disturbances, inflammation happening on the inside, because when your gut's inflamed, what happens is all these inflammatory mediators cross that gut barrier and go throughout your body. So that's why we have this internal mechanism of inflammation happening, then manifesting on the skin and mucous membranes like your eyelids.
That makes sense. So you talked about the gut. So what else could potentially be causing this inflammation?
Well, right before we started recording, you did something I do all the time, and that is turn my air purifier off. I literally have air purifiers in each room in my home. I live in an older home. I'm next to a big forest. So it's, it's a little bit damp here on the West Coast. And most homes have mold. So things in and around your home, like mold, if you're in a new building, you have like adhesives, your carpet, things like that. Like buildings breathe. So having air purification is really important. And one of the reasons why, and there's actually been some studies that looked at air quality in, say, countries in the Orient, there's higher rates of skin irritation, inflammation, acne, hyperpigmentation, because dirt, debris, dust, pollution, all of that, when it sits on the skin, even EMFs can actually trigger oxidative stress in the skin, thus leading to inflammation and accelerated aging. So 100%, you need good light in your home. Switch out all your LED junk lights to halogen. Your electrician will think you're a bit nuts, but it is important to make sure your lighting is halogen instead of LED in your home, and good air quality and really good water quality as well. So always make sure you have a really good water filtration system that your plumber can set up underneath your sink or things like that. But the grounding, the EMFs, and making sure that you are grounded. We need our homes to be electrically grounded, but we need our physical bodies to as well. If we're not grounded, what happens in our mitochondria and our cells, the ionic gradient gets a little too positive. We got too many hydrogen atoms floating around. We get literally too positive if we're not balanced. And that might sound great, but it's actually not, because our cellular processes are going to be a little out of whack with that electrical gradient that does need to be as basically, we want homeostasis in our body. So if we're constantly fighting being too positive, we're going to have inflammation. So literally take your shoes off, stand outside about 10 minutes a day. That's going to be enough to ground you and allow some of those excess protons to leave you and get absorbed by the earth. And then you gain more negative ions to create more cellular ionic homeostasis within your body.
Excellent. And so you talked about grounding the body. How do you ground a home, or is it naturally grounded?
Actually, this is something that came up in a session with one of my mentors, that this is really something it could actually, he's even relate to me that this is actually one of the biggest health threats we're facing right now is electromagnetics. Their WHO, I know I saw this on WHO website like last year or the year before, and about 15% of the population is hypersensitive to electromagnetics. I'm definitely one of them. So if I'm in cities and stuff like that for too long, I won't feel very good. I'll feel a little frazzled. I'll be really tired, fatigued. That's why I do my once a week complete off-grid days. Hop in the Land Rover. I'm 3 hours into the bush, no cell reception. I am not hearing any sounds. I'm not hearing any cars, airplanes, dogs barking, and I'm not around EMFs as well and other people's devices and towers and stuff like that. So I do give myself a break. And there are implications there. If you go on PubMed and look up EMFs in the skin, you will find studies that talk about the link of EMFs actually creating skin inflammation and ocular inflammation as well. So when it comes to our home, there are lots of things you can do. You can, again, your electrician is going to look at you like you're a crazy person unless they're really in tune with this stuff. So try and find yourself an intuitive electrician if you can. But there are some ways that you can ground your home. I've heard of people putting carbon paint on their walls to block that out. I don't know how much that works, but I use technology in my home to create a more coherent energy field. And they usually work within about a 200-foot radius. And I have tested them with some of my piece of technology that I have at my home here that actually measures the human biofield really crazy how I have this device I could put my fingertips in, and I've measured everyone in my family before turning on this one device and then after. And everybody actually had thicker human biofields, which AKA aura. But this is very well studied, especially in Europe. The concept of having a really healthy human biofield, because that actually acts kind of as an invisible layer to other things from permeating you. So when you're on your laptop and your cell phone, your biofield actually can shrink a little bit, or you have different areas in your biofield that you're going to be more susceptible to external forces. Very interesting stuff.
Really interesting. Yeah. What's the product that you like to use for that?
I really like the Somavedic. I actually list a lot of my favorite things just on my website, rachelvarga.ca/favorites. That's like my curated list. I've been using that one for quite a while. I have noticed it helped me sleep. It has helped with my HRV, but the biggest thing that I've seen it help with is actually my biofield on myself and everyone in my home. And I think that this technology, it's like a proprietary arrangement of semi-precious stones and metals with an amplifier. It is kind of esoteric, sort of not quite fully understood technologies, but we understand concepts like geopathic stress. This is actually what's utilized in, like, for example, geologists are testing geopathic stress in different areas for finding underwater rivers and things like that. If you're on a fault line, like I am on the West Coast, we have more geopathic stress as well. So it's not just like EMFs, but it's actually what the earth is like where you are, ley line intersections. There's going to be like highways for other stuff. This is a really interesting topic. And I do actually think that this is one of the most important things that we start to be aware of. And the science does back this up, that electromagnetics do impact our skin and our eyes. And I definitely think that there would be an element to impacting fatigue, anxiety, with even just our brainwave states and all of those electromagnetic ionic gradients within every cell of our body. Hormones, peptides, they're all mediated by this stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah, so if you guys are interested in checking that out, that website was rachelvarga.ca/favorites. I'm definitely going to check it out. And
actually, there's something else I'm wearing.
Yeah.
It's my necklace. So this is actually made by one of my buddies, Dave Asprey. I saw him a while ago and I was like, what the heck are you wearing? Is that like a Stargate or a Star Trek type of looking necklace? And it's actually optical quartz. So you know how if you've ever kind of geeked out on like the diamond lattice structure, it's a bunch of like carbons with lines connecting to other carbons. And when atoms are arranged in such a way, it creates kind of like this lattice structure. And Nassim Haramein, he's the maker of the arc pendant. He is a physicist, and he's actually figured out a way to get optical quartz to be combined in such a way that it can actually be used to structure water. And we're basically bags of water. So, I mean, I'll take whatever I can get for helping with sort of like energetic harmonizing and coherence. I mean, who knows if this stuff really works? All I know is that it makes me feel, maybe a little bit better when I wear it. I feel pretty clear right now, and I haven't worn it for a couple of days, and I have for the podcast here. So I'll roll with it. That's
cool. It reminds me of the Carillion photography when you're looking at the water, the Matsumoto water.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, which is really interesting. For those who don't know, basically praying over water changes the water structure, or saying nice things to the water changes the water structure. And consequently, since we're 80% water as humans, you can do the same with your thoughts, with your words, but then also with things like this.
That's actually structured water is basically a term for water in its natural form. So waterfalls, fresh water, oceans, streams, that's all technically structured water. So the oxygen is binding with the two hydrogens in such a way that those angles are ideal. But then what happens is we throw our water through pipes and things like that. It's going through these 90-degree angles, which it doesn't do in nature. So there has been some work with structured water actually enhancing farming practices. Again, this is more like European stuff. Europeans are a little bit more ahead of us than this in North America, but that's to explain structured water. That's why I like to use structuring type of devices.
So then where do you get your water from so that you've got the highest quality available?
Well, I do have city water. And then the next thing I want to do is actually get a filtration device to my home. I am fortunate. I have probably some of the cleanest tap water in the whole country where I live. I'm actually on an island, but under my sink, I have a reverse osmosis water filter as well as for hot water. So that's where my water comes from. It's not really necessary to have a well here, and sometimes things can leach into wells, so you still want to make sure that that's filtered. But actually, when I'm out in nature, I'll fill up my mason jar here or my thermos, and I'll literally drink it. I mean, I've survived so far without any bugs and stuff like that, but there's always a risk to pick things out. But I do enjoy drinking fresh running water, like mountain runoff and things like that.
That's great. And I think that there was something that you mentioned about how you like to go off grid at least once a week. And I think it's such a wonderful reminder about how, as humans, we've kind of lost our way when it comes to this relationship with nature. And how, if you go back just a couple of hundred years, we were living very much in nature, and we didn't have all of these things that were interfering with our ability to connect with nature and to naturally ground on a 24/7 basis, or more frequently than we currently are doing.
The other really cool thing about being in nature is having fires, right? When I had about 3 days with my hubby in the cabin in the woods, there's a fireplace, and I love tending to fires. I literally would do it for like 2-3 hours each evening. And he'd be reading his Ready Player 2 book, like I mentioned. That's when he told me that. And for some reason, just like doing something like that, you're kind of in tunnel vision. Like there's this beautiful fire in front of me. I got to keep feeding it. I got to make sure it doesn't go out. It's warm. It's cozy. The crackles. It's just like sensory beautifulness. And this is how I used to live. And I couldn't believe how relaxed I felt the whole time I was up there in that cabin with my hubby. And I think we're really missing out on little things like that. Like that's how we would commune, is we would cook our food over a fire. We, bang on some drums, play the guitar, harp, whatever. We've totally lost that. Now when we eat, we throw on like Netflix or something like that, right? I mean, we're all kind of guilty of that. But at least if you can give yourself a break, like one day a week, take your family to like a camping spot and have a fire outside or in your backyard if you can. Something as simple as that, I think, will really help to recharge people if they haven't done that for a while, and honestly, like really be an element to fixing fatigue.
Amen. And so how does inflammation in the body impact our skin and aging process?
Yeah, so inflammation is going to speed up your aging. So I work with a lot of different products, supplements. I know that you do as well. And actually one of the founders of a skin optimized supplement that comes from France, third-party independent lab testing over 15 years. I'm happy to let you know what that product is, but for the purpose of this interview, I'm not going to be like product specific. But the founder, Francois Vix, he said in an interview, inflammation is inflammaging. And he really hit the nail on the head. If you got inflammation running in the background, your body is working really hard to fix that, and to fix that what's called oxidative stress. Oxidative stress, or reactive oxidative species, ROS, that's really what is triggering inflammation in the body. So that's why things like antioxidants are really important to have in your diet and in your skincare, to gobble up those free radicals so that they don't damage your cells and DNA and all of that. We really have to protect our DNA and all of that so it doesn't break down, so we don't get mutations, cancers, things like that, skin cancers, of course. So really, if you want to slow your aging, you have to reduce inflammation in your body. And I really think one of the biggest links that we are missing right now is really that mental component and that psyche component. because if our brain isn't working well, we are just literally getting things shoved in our faces these days with TV, programming through cell phones, social media. Our brains are not meant to do this all the time. No wonder the world is fatigued. We're not taking the time to calm our minds through, extended meditation practices, getting outside, focusing on fire. We're so fragmented in our reality these days. And so if your brain is fragmented, it's focusing on this side, the other thing, it's always in that fear, fight, or flight. It's not going to be mediating the, healthy hormone production and mediating different peptides in your body for signaling. So I think that the psychological component right now is huge to make sure we're bolstering up our psyche, and also just so that we're not going to be as susceptible to things like gimmicks and things that actually could be harmful to us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really good point. You mentioned, so it sounds like with skin, there's kind of like this outer world and this inner world where both have to be addressed. And if you are going to use cosmetics, you got to make sure they're as clean as absolutely possible. And then you got to clean up the inner terrain. Is that correct? There's like this outer inner sort of thing, and both have to be addressed?
100%. It's like it's an ongoing journey. But I really started to notice my clients that were meeting with me for the first time, 60 to 80, they'd never done a rejuvenation procedure in their life. They were using whatever skincare they had from the health food store. And those of them that had a spiritual, meditative practice, they played music. So I have my Gibson Les Paul here. I've been playing guitar since I was 10 years old. Or if they did art or things like that to bring themselves joy, those clients, without question, age the best. And this is what happens, Evan, myself, practitioners like us, when we do this long enough, so over 10 and a half years, we start to notice anecdotally subsets of our patients that are just thriving. And then the other ones that are, those are the busy ones. And I actually wrote a whole ebook kind of breaking step by step down. And I have this theory. It's like body, mind, spirit, energy equals whole human. And if any aspects of our body, mind, spirit, energy waver, what's going to happen is you can counteract that with, say, bolstering up another aspect of yourself, like Lachelle Kelly's principle with reactants to get a product. I have a background in biochem. That's why I'm such a dork. When reactants are like, one is out, another one will kind of pick up the slack, or there's going to be less products made. And if you think of someone like Stephen Hawking's, famous astrophysicist, right? He had ALS, his body was really wavering, but I'll tell you, his mind, spirit, and energy was off the hook, that it almost counteracted his physical state. So say you are like injured, you got a buggered hip or a knee or shoulder, and you can't do as much physically, like lifting weights, cardiovascular, stretching, stability, then bolster up the other aspects of yourself and just kind of acknowledge that, and don't let it hold you back, but just manage it.
Smart. So you mentioned some ebook, and I know that we've got some free stuff for our audience. So we're going to drop this promo code below, but if you use that promo code evanhirschfixyourfatigueforever, you're going to get 15% off your one-on-one skin and rejuvenation consultation with Rachel, and we'll drop that link below. And then there's also a freebie, free treatment planning guide and sophisticated skin cheat sheet. Go ahead.
And you can use that promo code at rachelvarga.ca. It's going to get you 15% off of your one-on-one with me, because that's really how I can give you customized guidances. Okay, you let me know what your skin is up to, how old you are, for example, what some of your skin goals are. If you're wanting more hydration, smoothness, tone and texture, you're dealing with sunspots, age spots, acne, sagging to the brows, eyelids, jawline, neck, body, skin stuff. Trust me, I can help you out. So book that one-on-one with me, and I will give you a customized at-home plan and, walk you through products that I think could be helpful for you, give you that ongoing support. Like literally, I work with a lot of type A clients. They want, what to do when here, and then next, and then next. I trust me, I do that all for you. Nobody else in the world is doing this. No idea why. This is just how people deserve to be cared for, but apparently it's not common. And then I give ongoing support, give some clinic recommendations, and all sorts of cool nuggets for, which biohacking options could be helpful for you, for helping you optimize your skin and aging journey as well. And then also, as a thanks for hanging out here with us on the show, everybody, you can also get access to my 5 steps to sophisticated skin. So whatever your budget lifestyle is, I work with people kind of all over the map, like retirees to tech moguls and everybody else in between. Whatever you're doing with your cleanser, moisturizer, sunscreen, and scrub, and say like a mask once or twice a week, there are some little tidbits of information here in my treatment planning guide and sophisticated skin cheat sheet that will just help you optimize the way you're using your products right now. For example, double cleansing in the evening is one of the tips that I have in here, and using an exfoliant that doesn't contain things like sugar, salt, rice, apricot hull, seed hull, bamboo, because they can actually create micro tears in the skin. And a lot of clients I work with that have sensitive skin, they're scared to cleanse and they're scared to exfoliate. But what did I mention before? Dirt, debris, pollution. If they sit on the skin, they're going to age you. So there sometimes is some programming that we have to kind of undo and get you back on the straight and narrow. So that's what all of these resources are going to do. And everybody, you guys should check out our interview that Evan and I did on the Rachel Varga podcast and the Rachel Varga YouTube channel. I give away so much free content just to help you optimize your body, mind, spirit, and energy so that you can be your brightest version on the inside and out. And then guess what? You're going to feel better. You're going to look better. And other people are going to say, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. Right? And then you'll be leading by example.
You're going to actually have that skin glow.
Radiance. Radiance is what we want. We don't just want good skin. We want you to shine from the inside out. And I encourage each and every one of you, when you're considering working with someone, I want you to take a good look in their eyes. And what do you see? Do you see vibrance? Do you see vitality? Do you see radiance? Or do you see like flat, kind of like maybe some darkness, or maybe you just don't really trust them very much? You need to start paying attention to who you're listening to these days in every aspect of your life. And if you feel like you're not in resonance with someone, you got to pay attention to that. And please, we're heading into different seasons and consumerism, bright, shiny object syndromes everywhere. Do not buy the skin and anti-aging gimmicks. Trust me, I'll help you stay on the straight and narrow. And yes, I will help you save thousands, which is how I can sleep very well at night.
That's amazing. Yeah, if you've got skin issues, definitely talk to Rachel. She is the expert. And whenever if you want to learn how to play piano, you don't go to your mechanic, right? You go to a piano coach or a piano teacher, right? So you got skin issues, go talk to Rachel. And Rachel, give us your website again.
rachelvarga.ca. And you can also send me a direct email. Yes, I do check all my emails myself.
Wow, that's impressive.
You can email me at info@rachelvarga.ca. But for sure, tune into the podcast, the Rachel Varga podcast. Get my sophisticated skin cheat sheet. Do that stuff first, and then book your one-on-one with me. Then I do seasonal skin camp programs, because every season there's things that we also need to adjust with our skincare and our self-care practices. Also, certain skin rejuvenation laser options, so energy-based options to promote collagen and elastin and help with the pigmentation and things like that. They're better suited to different seasons. So there is a lot to know with skin. And even things that we need to tweak seasonally.
Wow, that's good to know.
It's never ending.
Rachel, thank you so much for joining me today. It was wonderful hanging out with you again.
Absolutely. I can't wait to have you back on my show as well. And helping everybody out, helping parents, moms, grandparents, practitioners, entrepreneurs. We're all kind of riding this wave of being a human together, and let's just look radiant and beautiful in the process, shall we?
I love it. Let's do it. I hope you learned something on today's podcast. If you did, please share it with your friends and family and leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. It's really helpful for getting this information out to more fatigued people who desperately need it. Sharing all the experts I know and love, and and the powerful tips I have on fatigue is one of my absolute favorite things to do. If you'd like more information, please sign up for my newsletter, where I share all important facts and information about fatigue, from the foods and supplements to the programs and products that I use personally and recommend to others so that they can live their best lives. Just go to fixyourfatigue.com/newsletter to sign up, and I will send you this great information. Thanks for being part of my community. Just a reminder, this podcast is for educational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional care by a doctor or other qualified medical professional. It is provided with the understanding that it does not constitute medical or other professional advice or services. If you're looking for help with your fatigue, you can visit my website and work with us at fixyourfatigue.com. And remember, it's important that you have someone in your corner who is a credentialed healthcare professional to help you make changes. This is very important, especially when it comes to your health. Thanks for listening, and have an amazing day.